I knew.
You sat in the chair, you always.
Sat in the
Yeah,
wrong
it's
place,
inaccurate.
that's it.
But
That's
tonight,
it, that's
tonight
it.
is.
Wait a minute, I got something, hold on.
You had grabbed everything, I double checked it.
What'd you give me one today?
I love it.
Uh-huh. Yep, no, I didn't.
Which is
No.
Okay, I sent it, email to the ad, explained everything.
Wow, look at everybody so absorbed in
Uh-huh.
something.
They were being the number one team by 13 and long. Coach did all these
Uh-huh.
things. And came right back. They won by 13. The third quarter. Ended up losing by 3. No,
This is
third
like
quarter.
I know the- How much?
So they'll probably, hopefully they'll win one game. I don't know.
Go ahead.
I don't see them going.
You know, this really is such a
So-
good magazine. It is.
Yes, sir. They are no longer.
Oh, wait, sorry, this is Rose.
They, you know.
I'm the one who, once you put me in a seat up there forever. Forever.
They are shutting down. Purchasing license. Inside or out? Yeah, the Andrew one, yeah. No, okay. I'll think that works out fine. What's expensive? Yeah, I don't have a lot. Getting more extra pictures, I have service.
Oh, okay.
Is that from last month?
We kept saying, you know, we're gonna get together for to top it off, but.
Should've given it to me, I saw her twice at the.
Oh.
Yeah.
We've been torn. This is so done.
How are you?
Good thing.
Hey, how are you? So Dennis could not resist his opportunity, you know, how he paints his socks. He said, you made it. He paid, look, he paid it. That is too funny. I go in the doctor's office and look kids will be
Yeah, no.
He did a good job.
I sent it to Scott, I didn't send it to
No,
you.
but we went down and, I went,
I
almost all the games they had.
Oh, he loves doing that.
And,
What do you got?
I went
yeah,
down.
so I got it.
Oh,
That's fine.
Lonnie Logan, coach.
Magnetic, I didn't know that, did you? Why would that be magnetic?
Monday they played.
Why would that be magnetic?
Can we call the meeting to order?
They spanked them by 22. They're 17 and 7.
Roll call.
Mr. Viera?
Yeah.
Dr. Vogt? Here. Mrs. Wittes? Here. Dr. Selly?
Here.
Mr. Dangler?
Here.
I hereby certify that this meeting has been posted in the newspaper in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act and posted as required by law.
Thank you. Chief Roba, parking Willow Avenue.
Yes. So we had a request by the school system. We're talking about Willow Avenue. If you're driving down Willow Avenue, the school will be on your right-hand side toward Prospect, right there. So for about 440 feet, they want to make it no parking between 7 a.m. and 4 p.m. There's already some spots there for where they park to let the kids out. But apparently people park there, so it forces the buses to park side by side, and it's not safe for them, or it's not safe for the kids, and it's also holds up people from getting where they wanna go. So they wanna just make it no parking, 7 a.m. to 4 p.m., school days for approximately 440 feet there. And if you say yes to that, we'll do the ordinance and paint the curb and put up signs and make it happen.
Yeah, I've seen the art, it's pretty tight.
Yeah, it's
It gets a little
pretty
tight.
hard there when they're, when they're on both sides, and then they can't get the buses in there.
So there's no downside to it, right?
I don't think there's parking on the other side of the street, so, and most of those houses over there have driveways, or at least some driveways. The only thing is you're probably losing a couple parking spots on the road, but again, it stops at 4 too, so if you come home after work at 4 o'clock, you can switch your car there.
Yeah,
So I don't think there's too much of a
yeah,
downside where people would be worried about it.
yeah, okay, good.
I'm good, when is it,
Yep, I'm good
7:04?
with it.
Thank you.
All right.
fee ordinance. Mr. Jackson.
Yes, thank you. Several months ago, I tasked our department heads to review their fee ordinances for the respective departments and look to see if we were deficient or if we were in a good place as far as adequate fees to cover the cost of some of the services that we provide to residents. Back on January 22nd, after reviewing all of these, I sent to the members of council recommendations based on their input for many of our ordinances. Tonight, we have for introduction ordinance 10-20, which proposes several changes to our fees. And these range from birth certificates, marriage licenses, to ABC licenses for our liquor establishments, review fees for food establishments, restaurants. It introduces a new category of body art establishments, tattoo parlors. We've never had any type of review for those. And there are several others, cats and dogs. All of these different things. Most of these changes are based on comparisons to other similar municipalities. I did get a comment back from Council Vice President Selly that she had looked through. Just to give you an idea of some of the things we're dealing with, our mercantile license fee hasn't been changed for 30 years.
I was gonna ask you that,
Yeah.
when was the last
So-
time they got changed?
So you will see, it's a significant increase, but it brings us up on par with other municipalities like Freehold Township. Also, there aren't that many municipalities in Monmouth County that have their own health department, but we did a comparison, I say we, Sid Johnson, our health officer, compared our fees to those imposed by the Monmouth County Regional Health Commission and also Freehold Township, which has its own health department. So all of these fees that you see increased are either because of many, many years that they haven't been touched at all, or to get us in comparable scale to other municipalities. And just one other issue, for our DPW fees, you'll see a fee for dumpsters. We're paying for people to get rid of refuse from construction jobs. We're not even covering the costs. So all we're doing is trying to get to a level where we cover the cost of the tipping fees when we go to the landfill. Personally, I don't think it's right that private residents should pay for construction fees. This just gets us to an even playing field. Also, the alcohol licenses, they can go as high, you'll see the routine license is the plenary retail consumption license. We were at $860. Many towns around us charge $2,500. That's not unusual. But we can only go up 20% of the pre-existing year. So we're going up to $1,030. But this hasn't been touched for several years as well. We're far behind. So those are on for your consideration tonight. I hope you find them acceptable and reasonable. In talking to our department heads, we all agreed that many of these are overdue, these are increases that need to be made.
Can they be increased just 20% per year? Or
Yes. Yep.
So next year we can increase.
We could do another 20%. But the cap is $2,500, and there are many municipalities that get $2,500 per license. We're under 1,000. We're gonna go up to just over 1,000.
And where are we at with the, mechanism that people can go online and pay for these things, as far as, the programs?
Our IT fellow isn't here, but Will has been communicating.
Yeah, we were back with the Will, working with the departments to set up forms. The website works as far as accepting payments. The departments are creating forms to fill out to correspond with the payment.
So there's no problem with processing the fees with a credit card or anything like
Nope,
that?
it's acceptable through the website, as long as the forms and corresponding information is put in.
Thank you.
Any questions from anyone about?
No, I knew
the
that
rationale?
dumpster for the construction debris, I knew that was mighty cheap.
Yeah.
The way we had it.
Yep.
I think it was costing the city a lot of money, just a dumpster.
Yeah. Also, some of the things that were changed is we're doing them based on the size of some of these permits. For example, for food establishments, whether you had a little luncheonette or you had a 200-seat restaurant, the review fee was the same. So now we've done these on scale for the number of seats or square footage in some of these establishments, so that people are paying proportionally to what it is we're looking at and inspecting. So there were some really good thought processes that our department heads put into this. One other thing, you may be interested, you're a guy that likes to check our roads. All finished paving installed less than 5 years has to be restored using infrared. So we can hold the contractor's feet to the fire and get a much better repair on some of our newer paving. Because we're still gonna, even if we haven't tried to impose a moratorium, we're still gonna have emergency openings, and we want these things restored appropriately. So that's being introduced in
Yeah, we
2021.
need that because, county paved Norwood, I mean, right alongside where the intersections with the other streets, the potholes, they couldn't even fill those potholes and they're paving right next to it.
Wow.
So, we need some kind of guidance so that we look at that.
So that was a good overview, George, because, you know, as you read this for the first time, you look at some of these numbers and you say, wow, you know, how did we
Yes.
get from there to there?
Yeah.
So your explanation for everything, because my question was how, you know, how were these things calculated? And, so to have a good justifiable answer for anybody that asks, it sounds like we are well prepared with how
Yes.
everything was done. So, this is even just a more general question. So we now have the benefit of knowing the thinking behind it. How does the general public know the benefit of that? You know, we have
Well,
our resolution,
sure.
you understand what I'm saying? You know, they see it on an agenda.
Right, well, if the council would like an explanation, possibly at our public hearing, you could task me
Just-
with giving that same explanation if you like.
Oh, okay.
Just so people have an understanding
Yeah.
of where we're coming from. We're not doing it just to make money or to impose higher fees, but to make things comparable with other municipalities and also to cover some of the costs of our services.
Yeah, okay, good. I think sometimes that would be helpful, however, that, you know, we wanna add that into the agenda.
Sure.
Good.
George, the only question I had on it is, I think the business fee more than doubled.
Mercantile?
Yeah, the mercantile.
Well,
I thought,
Go ahead,
you know,
sorry.
maybe to 100, but 125? I mean,
well, I can tell you, I've got Sid Johnson's research. The other similarly sized municipalities are doing at least 100, and they charge for an extra fee for square footage.
Oh, okay.
Excessive square footage, so those fees go up, and the others, the majority were 125. And like I said, this is the 30-year-old fee. This is the one that hasn't been touched for 30 years. So I know it's significant. Also, we would not impose this until January 1st of next year, so that everyone gets their licenses completed this year, because when you buy a mercantile license, it's only from that day to the end of the calendar year. So this wouldn't actually kick in until next January 1st.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else?
That's all I had, sir.
Okay. Item 3, review of the regular meeting agenda.
I have a question. Resolution 42-20, requesting the planning board to amend draft resolution designating the entire city as an area redevelopment. Can you fill us in on
Sure.
what that's for?
Yeah.
Item
So-
what, I'm sorry.
42-20.
4220.
So I don't know, Nick's not here, but I'll do it. So,
Development.
you also have on your, this is companion legislation to the ordinance that you have on that is establishing the program for 5-year tax abatements for improvements to commercial property and residential property. So as part of your ability to do that is triggered by the designation of property as an area in need of rehabilitation. And the law allows you to designate the entire city, and it's basically based on very broad criteria, which is a substantial portion of the city's housing stock is X number of years old, a substantial number of the commercial buildings are more than X number of years old. This is not a blight designation, this is a rehabilitation designation that allows you to then use these tools, one of which is the tax abatement. So that's all it is. It doesn't change anybody's zoning, there's not a rehabilitation plan, there's not anything other than, it makes you qualify to have that tax abatement program. That's the sole reason we're doing it. And you'll notice that the process is different than an area in need of redevelopment. We're not instituting a study that we're sending to the planning board and they conduct a study. We're saying to the planning board, look, we'd like to adopt this resolution, we're sending it to you to review. So you have a resolution that is essentially transmitting another resolution to the planning board. So that's why you see two resolutions, the proposed resolution that you want to adopt, and the resolution saying, hey, planning board, take a look at this. And then the planning board will have a meeting, they'll review it, their planner will review it. But essentially, like I said, you'll see in the resolution, there's very broad criteria for establishing it, but that's why we're doing it.
Thank you.
Sure.
Anyone else regarding the agenda?
That was my question too.
Yeah, that was my question too.
Okay. Hearing none, I need a motion to close.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I need a motion to adopt the resolution to go into executive session for the following items: contract negotiations, Ocean Gate, and item number 2, attorney-client privilege, fire department.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, contract negotiations, Ocean Gate.